Right now, let's bring in Brian Ross. It's time for Real News. And the news, of course, last Saturday was the fundraising campaign announced by the Hotchkiss Library in Sharon, the amount of money they've raised already, and also putting some shovels in the dirt. Good morning, Brian.
I was there. I didn't see him, Marshall, but yes, we did put our shovels in the dirt, and the real construction begins, I think, in about 10 days, and off we go.
Well, the reason I wasn't there was it was our 50th reunion of the class of 71, and most of us never thought we'd make it to 50 years. So we gathered in Falls Village on top of a mountain. So sorry about that.
Sounds very delightful. Completely excused.
All right. So now, there's a big difference between the Democratic Party hierarchy and members and the Republican Party. And that is Democrats are very quick when one of their own appears to have done something wrong or done something wrong to try to set the record straight, where the Republican Party, under the leadership of Donald Trump, fights it out, grinds it out, and just keeps going like nothing else happens. This is highlighted by the resignation of Governor Mario Cuomo, and may I say up front, first of all, the governor should have resigned. I'm not saying he raped anybody, but he was acting inappropriately. Too many people was verified by the Attorney General. His inappropriate behavior should lead to what happened to him. But there's such a stark difference, and then how the one party that has so many of these things go on can sit in judgment is what really gets to me.
Well, you put your finger on a very important point. Andrew Cuomo was abandoned by others in the Democratic Party who felt from what they saw, and the investigation done by his own Democratic Party Attorney General found that he crossed the line. He says the line moved, he didn't realize it. I don't know about that, but he did step down because no one in the party would support him. And on the other hand, look at what's happened. The allegations, for instance, just in this area alone of sexual harassment. I mean, Donald Trump's accused of rape by at least one woman. The allegations against him are unbelievably bad, and yet there's been no cry inside the Republican Party for him ever at that point to step down because of that. That was just sloughed off as if it was, he just denied it and moved on. And I think you've got a difference there. I was talking yesterday about the fact you've got two men who, look back 18 months ago, these were the two sort of people in the country trying to lead the country in vastly different ways, Donald Trump and Andrew Cuomo. And now they're both, out of jobs and fighting for their legal lives in court, both with the prospect of criminal charges and a slew of civil lawsuits that could tie them up for years.
And, and it doesn't stop there. The latest stories, and there are multiple stories out about Rand Paul and a financial disclosure that just came out that his wife purchased stock in the company behind Remsver in 2020. These things, what do they say, something's rotten in Denmark?
He says he sort of forgot to disclose it. He thought it had been disclosed, and it wasn't disclosed, but it's 16 months late that his wife purchased this stock before the pandemic really took off. You'd think that he would do that. He'd understand that. Meanwhile, his YouTube account has been suspended following. I don't know if you saw the video he posted with just an outrageous thing saying masks don't work. We can fight. They can't arrest us all. What sort of a message is that he's sending at a time when this Delta variant is sweeping the country, particularly among those who are not vaccinated?
There's that, and Green, once again, had her Twitter account suspended for a week for repeated violations and putting out false information.
They don't seem to be troubled by that, and there's some crack in sort of the resistance or the hesitancy that we're seeing, mostly because people are watching their friends die, and that's a more powerful message can't be sent than that. But it still remains an issue that so many Americans are still putting it off for reasons that, some of them are just afraid of it. Others have said they don't want to do it until there's a full formal approval of the various vaccinations, which I would acknowledge there that the FDA, they do everything by the book, they say, but could they not have moved this along faster with what more than 100 million Americans have received it? They can't be saying that it's still experimental only.
It's a strange situation that we sit in, and it leads to more confusion and misinformation and the belief of misinformation. Now, another thing I want to get to, President Obama. Well, I didn't agree with everything he did, but I think he was a very good president. But you have to take a look at what Joe Biden has managed to do in his first 6 months, with a very close House and a 50-50 split in the Senate. He gets, once again, two huge, big packages through. And really, for a sleepy old Joe, I think he's done a pretty amazing job.
Looking that sleepy, and, with the help of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they're on this two-track system to get these two infrastructure, the hard infrastructure they're calling it, the bipartisan bill, plus the human infrastructure, the $3.5 trillion. They are working their way to get both of them passed on a simultaneous way. Speaker Pelosi has called back the House for August 23rd to consider both the bipartisan bill and then the Senate's overall bill, which will be going through process for our listeners called reconciliation, which means because it affects the budget, the rules of the Senate are it only has to get 50 votes. They don't need to get the 60 votes to get past the filibuster. That's what they're hanging their hats on. It's a delicate process. It's quite a complicated little dance they're trying to do, but so far they seem they're marching that way.
Well, it seems like his very calm, quiet, behind-the-scenes style. If it works, and the reconciliation $3.5 trillion budget goes through, and the infrastructure goes through, you team that with his first major piece of legislation. That'll mean within 6 to 8 months of becoming president, he has been at the helm with three of the biggest pieces of legislation ever to come about in just 8 months as president.
And these pieces of legislation, if enacted, would be truly game-changing for so many Americans. They're hugely popular, according to public opinion polls, and they seem like they're moving that way to a real attack on child poverty and expanded health care for seniors. Now they're going to get dental and vision. That's a game changer for so many Americans who are watching this. And the Republicans have indicated they're not going to give one single vote to this other larger package. They think it's too much, too dangerous, etc. And as you know, the biggest issue is going to be getting some of the more moderate Democrats to go along. They may want to pare this bill back. Both the Manchin and others have indicated it's too big for them right now, but that's the nature of negotiations. I don't think they're trying to kill it. They're just trying to whittle it down a bit. So I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel there for the Biden White House. They are shrewdly moving it through.
And I think it takes somebody with the patience and maybe the misbelief about getting along. But I really think that Joe Biden's personality and the way he's handling this will bring progressives and also the more conservative wings into the fight to pass this because, as you said, this is almost Franklin Roosevelt-like legislation that they're putting in effect in the first 8 months.
And the New York Times has a good story this morning about how they're trying to essentially shepherd this bill through. And Ed Markey, the senator from Massachusetts, said it's like he called the 7-10 split in bowling. If you bowl at all, Marshall, you know, it's not that it's impossible. It does happen, but it happens rarely.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of the 7-10 split. One other thing I want to talk about, and that is in foreign policy. Once again, all these news stories about what the Taliban's doing. I don't, I know it's news and you report it, but I just think too much is being made about it. You have to remember when we first went in and kicked the Taliban out once, they came back. The Taliban's not going anywhere, and Afghanistan as a country is not like Iraq. It's more like Haiti. It's an uncontrollable mound of warlords.
Indeed, but this is a country which we poured trillions of dollars into to try to change it once and for all, and we are watching now the results of that expenditure and that investment. Nothing. It's collapsing. There's concern the capital could fall within 30 days. And I do think it's important for us. We're going to have to watch it. It's not going to be pretty at all. It's going to be ugly, and will reflect poorly, I think, on President Biden, because he made the hard decision to get out before the 20th anniversary of 9/11. That's the reason we went in there initially. And the people who made the decision that we should stay and try to change this country, to me, picking up on your point, had a complete lack of understanding about what that country is as a country, perhaps. And it is an area of fiefdoms, small areas, and nobody can get along. And the Taliban is already finding people changing sides to join them. The Afghan military just not up to the task after all those years of training by the U.S. and investment and machinery. It's leading to nothing.
But, you look back at history, you look at Vietnam, the French in there, the United States took over there. Changing a country to the way you think it should be run is never successful. If you look back through history, it always winds up like this. And somebody had to make the decision to say enough is enough. Let's focus our attention on better things.
I think some in the U.S. during the George W. Bush administration thought this was like the Marshall Plan. We could change Europe. We could change Germany. We could bring Japan around. And that's just not possible in this country. I mean, we learned the lessons of our hubris, really, that our arrogance that we could turn this into a U.S. style like democracy, and it did not take. It is not going to take. The Russians tried to go in there and do something along their own. They got pushed out too. So that's what's going on, and it's not going to be pretty. And I do think that it needs to be covered, and we need to understand the consequences of this decision, which are huge. But as you say, in the end, Joe Biden said, does he want to write one more condolence letter to a family that they lost a son or a daughter fighting in Afghanistan? He did not.
All right, and let's just get back to the news release that came out at noontime Saturday. It was embargoed when we put it up on the air. I just think it's phenomenal that the $3 million, the fundraising goal, before you even announced it, your board and all the friends of the line, you've raised $2.7 million, and that leaves, it leaves about $3 million that need to be raised, or $300,000.
$300,000.
Yeah.
We're 90% there.
That's
300.
That's amazing.
It was an incredible job done by a number of people on the library board who ran the fundraising campaign. They call it kind of the quiet phase. We were going out, and people were very generous. We were really, I think, blown away by the ability of so many Sharon residents to come through and to contribute significant amounts of money. And we're still looking for that final $300,000, which I think is there, and we're working on it. There's a great team in place, and Tom Trowbridge, as the president of the board, has really led this effort from the beginning, and hats off to all of those members of the board.
And if people want, you folks listening out there can pass it along, and Sharon, you can still make donations. Just go to hotchkiss.org. Website, just go to the library's website. You'll find an easy way to make a donation, because this is a big investment, not only in the library's future, but in Sharon's future as well. It's. I
don't know if you saw the drawings. It's going to be a great addition without upsetting kind of the balance of this beautiful historical gem. We've got this architectural gem on the green, at the time built by and designed by Bruce Price, who was at the time the America's leading architect, and he did buildings at Hotchkiss and Yale and elsewhere, and they got him to do this one here. And it's a real gem, and part of the money, a good chunk of it, is going to go to kind of restore the glory of the interior, so it has that same feel. Of all the works he's done, nothing really has been preserved quite as well as this, and it's wonderful, and I'm just so proud to have been part of what happened there, and I think all of Sharon can be proud. We're going to have a world-class library.
All right, Brian, we'll speak to you next week. Have a great week.
Okay, thank you, Marshall. Always great to be here.
Take care. Brian Ross with us with Real News. And, of course, you can find this online at RobinHoodRadio.com. Click on Real News with Brian Ross, and you'll find all the programs anchored there.